Hello and welcome to this course about React with test-driven development. My name is Başar Büyükarman. In this course, we are going to learn React by building a web application with it. React is one of the most popular library in front-end frameworks. According to State of JS, React is top 3 in each category of developer satisfaction, interest, usage, and awareness. In this course, we will be building a whole application with React having features like routing, global state management, and internationalization. But this is not just a course about React. It is also about how to apply test-driven development in a project from the very first requirement. We won't be doing any implementation before adding a test for that requirement. This course is following a different approach compared to most of the other courses. It is built on top of an actual application from beginning to the end. We are building a production-grade application with high-quality test codes. And to have a better picture for a complete web application, in the resources of this course, you will find a Node.js backend application. This is going to be helping us to implement our web client. We will not imagine how the client will work with the backend. We will practice it. When you are learning new things, it's not easy to fit those things into correct spots. It takes time and effort to understand how to make choices about features of the libraries you are using. This course is aiming to reduce that effort and help you to gain the experience you need for the React and the test-driven development. At the very beginning, the functionalities of React components may seem mysterious, but as our application evolves and as we continue to practice, those functionalities will make more sense and the mystery will disappear. Other than React, this course has second major topic, and that is test-driven development. We will be having lots of test cases during this development. We are going to experience how much confidence the tests are giving us when we are refactoring our implementation. And we are going to feel how the test-driven development is liberating us about the way we implement our solution. I hope you are as excited as I am to start this course. Let's start building this application. For the development environment, you need to install Node.js first. We are going to use the Node packages in the development, so we need to install this one. And for the editor, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. And during the development, we will be using the extensions on Chrome, and these extensions are React Developer Tools and Redux DevTools. In VS Code, I'm using a couple of extensions. In case you may be wondering those, here the list of them. I'm using this ESLint, and this is going to be highlighting the error or warning cases in the code. And the prettier is for formatting the code. So sometimes you will be seeing the code is formatted as soon as I save them, and the prettier will be doing that. And this Coca for running JavaScript files as we type, a useful plugin to test the algorithms you are writing at the moment. And for the theme, I'm using the Nord, and for the icon theme, I'm using the material icon, so the icons are looking like this. Let's create the React application. We are going to create the application with the tool Create React App, and we can run that tool with npx create react app. npx is executing npm packages, so you don't have to install these packages globally in your workstation. So we are using npx, and the package we are going to use is this create react app. This is going to be creating the React application. For us, it is going to be creating all the necessary dependencies and creating the base project for us. And all it is looking for is just the name for this project, and I'm just going to give the name as source. Hitting enter. Now the project is created. Let's go into the source directory and let's run npm start to start the application. Now the app is running on HTTP localhost and the port is 3000. Let's open this one in browser, opening localhost 3000. And here we are receiving this application. And this is the sample application coming with the Create React app. And here it is guiding us how to start in this application. We are going to open this project in VS Code, and let's do that. We have this package.json, and in this one we have the dependencies of these dependencies are for the testing library, and we are going to use this testing library React, and we have this React, and the React scripts are basically handling all the necessary dependencies under the hood. So we have the Webpack, we have the Babel, and we have the hot reload functionality. All of them are being handled by this dependency. And we have the scripts right here to start the application or run the tests. And if we check the public folder, we have this index.html, and this is just an HTML file having some syntax like this. And these are being filled with the Webpack, the bundler, and basically this body having only this div. And if we open the source, we have this index.js. This is the starting point of the application, and the React is rendering this element, the app, this one, which is the visible element on page right here. This one here, it is saying edit src app.js. Right here we have the text edit src.js. This one is being rendered into the document's root element, and the root is right here. This div is being filled with our app element. So this has the hot reload functionality. So if we change this one, like let's say instead of having a dot, let's replace it with the exclamation mark, and let's save this. And if we open the browser, here we have the exclamation marks right here. The changes are automatically applied and the application is restarted. So we are going to build our application on top of this one. There are samples like this test for the app component. We are not going to use this one. We will be creating our own test modules for the requirements for our application. So our project is created. Now we can start building our application on top of this one. The application is by default running on port 3000. I'm going to change this one. You don't have to do this, but I will. And in case you would like to do changes in the configuration of your application, you can do it like this. Just add a new file, and this file will be .env environment, and we can set the port like this. Port is equal to, and I'm going to use 9876. So just saving this one. This configuration is not automatically applied. We need to stop and start the server. So here hitting Ctrl+C to stop the application, then running npm start once again. Now it is saying the application is running on localhost 9876, and if we open the browser, if we refresh this one, it is trying to go to 3000. It's not reachable anymore, so we need to change it to 9876. And here we are seeing the application. Here in this page you can see the advanced configurations, like you can set the browser, and here setting the host port and the others. So you can check these configurations, and in case your app requires those kind of configurations, you can check them right here and use this key and assign corresponding value in the env file right here. Now we are going to create our first component. We are going to start with the sign up page. But first I'd like to highlight this. The page is splitted like this. I have the code part on the left hand side. I have the browser right here, and this console, this terminal, is for the test output. So let's start the test first, and we do that by running npm test. This is running this script right here, this one, and underlying test runner is the jest. So here we have this output. This project is being tracked with the git, so I'm committing each code changes, and jest is running tests based on the commit changes. This is running in watch mode, and it is looking if there is any differences between the last commit and the current working directory, and if it sees nothing, it doesn't run the test. But we can enforce it to run by hitting A, or also we have the list of available commands. So we want to run all the tests, and to do that we hit A. Currently in our project we only have this app test, and it is running app test, and it is passing. Now we are going to create our sign up page. So we are going to create two files. One of them is for the component, the sign up page component, and the other one is for the sign up page tests. There's a naming convention for the test files. Jest is looking for test files which are either ending with the .test.js or .spec.js. I'm going to go with .spec.js. My test file is sign up page spec.js. Now as soon as I add this one, the jest is detecting there is a new file, and it is running the tests, and here we see an error. The sign up page spec tests are failing because it is saying your test suite must contain at least one test. So we have the sign up page, and let's create the sign up page component JS. This is going to be a React component. So the tests are running again because we have a new file. There is change in the code. So Jest is trying to figure out if this is a resolution for the failing test. So that's why the test is running. We are going to start the tests, but first let's change the folder structure. Let's create a folder, pages. I'm going to put all the pages into this pages directory, and let's move the sign up page and sign up page spec into this pages folder. Now let's add our first test. Again, we have two options for having test functions. One of them is test, and it takes the parameters of the test name and the function. We can set arrow function, and for the test name we can say this page will has header. That's it. Alternatively, instead of test, we can use the function it. I prefer it because with this way the test name and it is making more sentence-like explanation of what this test is about. So it is referring to the sign up page. It has header. So this test is going to be checking the existence of the header. So first thing we do here is we are going to render the component, the sign up page. So let's import sign up page from current directory sign up page. So we are going to render this, and for this one we are using a library, React testing library. We are going to import a couple of functions from testing library React, and the functions are render and screen. Render is rendering the component, and with screen we get the query functions to query what we are looking for on this screen. So we are going to render sign up page, and we can pass the sign up page like this, just like an HTML element having angle brackets, sign up page, and closing this one. Now we can run queries through screen, and we are going to query by role. We are going to use the area roles to access the elements, and the role we are looking for is heading, and as a text for this header we expect it to be we are querying the text like this. We are passing an options object, and it has this name value, and the name, the text we are looking for in this heading is going to be sign up. So this query by role is returning back the element we are looking for. So we get header back, and we are expecting this header to be in the document. So the expect is the function of jest, just like this it. Expect is the assertion part, and this is the matcher. So we are expecting this header to be in the document. This matcher functionality is coming with this dependency, this one, jest DOM. Jest has the matcher functionality, but this library is bringing DOM related functions like an element to be in the document, an element to be disabled, to be visible, like that. So we are using this library matcher functions right here. So that's the test. We are rendering sign up page. We are querying a heading element having this text, and this is going to be in the document. Let's save this one. So this one is failing because we don't have anything in the sign up page yet. Here it is showing an error. It is complaining at this line. There is no actually a sign up page component. We are importing this file, but it has nothing in it. So let's create a component having a header having this text. So far in our application we have only one component, and that is this app component right here. And the app is a function which is returning this part. This is called as JSX. It looks like HTML, but it isn't. For instance, there is this class name. In HTML element attributes we don't have class name, it is class, but in JSX the class is reserved, therefore we are using class name. Also there is this part, there is this assignment like this. The src is dynamically assigned to this logo imported file. So this is not HTML, this is JSX. And this function is returning this JSX back. So in sign up page we can implement like this one. So we can have a function which is returning an header like h1, h2, h3, whatever we prefer, and it's going to be having a text. So let's do that. Instead of defining the function like this, we can go with the arrow function. So let's say we have the sign up page, and this is a function which is returning back an h1 having sign up in it. And let's make sure we are exporting default from this module, and we are exporting this sign up function from this module. Now if I save this one, by the way, I have called formatter, which is automatically updating the format as soon as I save the file, so it changed like this. Now the test is passing. We have just repeated the things we see in the app to create the component, but there are two types of components in React. This is called as functional component, and this is what we done right here. And the other one is a class component. Let's refactor this one and let's change it to be a class component. It is basically like this. We will have a class of having this name sign up page, and this is going to be extending React's component package, and this has a render function, and this render is going to be returning the JSX part. So just cutting this one, deleting this one, and here. So this is complaining. Let's import this one. We can just import React from React, or we can directly import just the component, and instead of referring it via this React component, we can just get like this. Let's save this one. So this is also working. We will be seeing more about the differences between the class component and the functional component later. For now, we are just going to go like this. We have this class component for sign up page, and let's change our page to display the sign up page. We can do it like this. We can either go into this index.js and import sign up page here and replace the app with sign up page, or we can use app, and let's do that. Let's clear whole content of the app and just removing this divs, and we are going to import the sign up page from under the pages directory. There is sign up page, and here just using like any regular HTML element. Now after saving this one, the app test is going to fail. Let's save this, but let's not focus to that part. Now all we see here on this window, we have this sign up, which is coming from this header, and here we can see the app test is failing, and that's failing because in the app test, this is coming with the create React app template, so it is saying there is a link in the app component, so it is checking the existence of that link. Now we replaced all the content of app, so the test is failing. We are not going to need this test, so just removing this one. We are going to add app tests later, but for now we don't need that. And also we don't need the app CSS, we don't need the logo. The index CSS is being used right here. We can keep it or remove it. This is just a CSS file to apply global style to our application. So I'm just keeping it, but I'm not going to do anything on that file. Let's keep it like this. So we have the app, which is basically wrapping the sign up page. Now, if we check the developer tools right here in the browser, so we have the React components right here, and here we can see there is app, and in app we have this sign up page. Now let's turn this one into a sign up form. So we are going to add new tests, but first let's show another functionality for the jest. We can group tests as a suites with another function, and that is describe. Describe is like the test functions. It takes two parameters, the name and the functions, which is including the test function. So in this function, describe function, we have the tests, and let's set the describe as, we can say this is sign up page. And we can add another describe into a describe block. So let's group our test as, let's say, a layout. So we are checking the layout of the page. So we are going to check the existence of the elements for the sign up. So if we save like this in the test console, we will be seeing both the describes. So there will be the sign up page, and under that one there's layout, and here we have the header. Now let's add our next test. This is going to be a user registration form, and we want to have user to enter their username. So it has username input. Again, we are going to render sign up page. This render is returning back an object. Let's say render result. In this object we have container, and this container has the functionality like we have in the document, like the query selector, and we can query the inputs. But let's write it shorter with object destructuring. Instead of having this render result assignment like this, we can just get the container from this returned object. Now we are going to get container query selector, and we are going to get the input element. Let's say this is the input, and we expect this input to be in the document. So let's save this one. By the way, this is not the best way to have this test case. User is not querying or looking for inputs. User is basically looking for some, either looks for a label, looks for a placeholder, and so on. But they don't look for input. But I just want to show how we can have tests which looks fine, but in fact they are not. So let's have it like this. So this is failing, obviously, because we don't have input on this sign up page. So let's add input right here. We can add anywhere in this page. So the first thing is we will have multiple elements right here, but in JSX, a component can have only one root element. So we cannot have something like this. So we have this h1, and under that one we have this input. This is not an acceptable approach, because now we have two elements having the same level. There's no one root. So we need to have a root element. We can go with a div, and we can put these two into this one. That is how we are. Let's format the document right here. So this is returning this root div, and in this div we have this h1 and input. Let's save this one. Now the test is passing, and also we can see the input on the page. Now let's add our next test. So other than username, we want user to send their email as a part of the registration, because we want to send an activation token to this email address to make sure this is a real user. So just copying this test and pasting here in this one, it has email input. Now again, we are going to query the input, and we expect this input to be in the document. So if I save at this point, this is going to be passing, but this is not what we are looking for. This is not a good way to write our test. We can fix it like this. We know that there will be multiple inputs, so instead of using this query selector, we can use query selector all. So this is going to be querying all the elements, and this is going to be returning back an array. So we can say this is inputs, this is an array, and we can say inputs length and to be 2. So this one is failing because we have only one element. So we can fix this by just adding another input right after this one, and let's save this. Now we have two inputs. We can see it on the page, and also our test is passing. But these are not very trustworthy tests. We will add another input for password, and in that case our email input test, this one, will fail, because this is expecting there will be two inputs, but after we add the password there will be three. Also, from user point of view, we are trying to gather user information via this form, but how can user knows which field is for which value? So is this one for email? Is this one for password? So for solution, we can use a placeholder. So we can say this input placeholder attribute will have the value. Let's say this is username, and the next one is email. So here we see this is username, this is email, and we can update our tests. Now, instead of using container, we can query the elements based on the placeholder, and we can do it like this. Let's change the sign. We are going to run query via screen, and in screen we have functions starting with query, get, and find. We will get their details later. So we are going to run the query get by identifier part is this one, placeholder text. So we are querying the elements based on their placeholder text, and we are looking for username, and the other one is email. And again, let's do it like this, and removing the container. So we are querying the elements based on the placeholder text. We are expecting those inputs to be in the screen. So saving this one, and the tests are passing. Another alternative to this one is to use labels for these inputs. So we can use a label, and let's say this is going to be username, closing the label, and we will have another label, and it's for email. Now let's remove the placeholder. We are not going to use placeholder. We are going to use label. So after saving this one, the tests will fail. Now on browser we can see the username and the email, but the tests are failing because in test we were querying based on the placeholder text, and now the placeholder is gone. Now we need to do this. First, we are going to associate this label with this input, and we do that by this one, HTML for attribute, and this is for username, and this one is going to be ID of this input, and the label email will be HTML for let's say email, and this is for ID email. So this is associating this label with this input, and this one, this email input label, is associated via this email ID. So we have this association. Now we can use another query. Instead of placeholder text, we can use label text. So we are going to get the elements based on the label. Now the label is starting with uppercase U, username. So make sure fix this part, and let's do the same thing for the email. Email is having uppercase E and then dash. So let's save all these changes, and the tests are passing. And in browser, if we just click to username, here it is highlighting the corresponding input, and if we click the email, it is also highlighting corresponding input. So in these tests, we are accessing to the elements just like a real user does. So as a user, I check the label, and I know which input belongs to that label and fill it. And in test, we do the same thing. We are querying based on the label, and we are getting the associated element with it. Now let's add our next test. Like in any registration form, we will have password. Again, let's copy this test and pasting right here. In this one, it has password input. Now we are going to get the password label, and we expect that input to be in the document. So this one is failing because we don't have password element in the page. So just copying this again, email, label and input, and let's change this one to password. By the way, in Visual Studio Code, you can select text and hit Ctrl D to select select the repeating ones, and as you hit Ctrl D, it will be adding the next one into the selection. So that's how I refactor that part. And let's change the e-mail to password. This is the label we are querying in the test right here. So saving this one. Now we have password here, and the test is passing. So if we fill these inputs, here we can see we are able to fill them, but the password is also behaving similarly as the username or email. It must be masking the user input. So let's add a test for that one. Let's copy this password test. So in this one, it has password type for password input. Now we are going to check this input attribute. So the attribute we are going to check is type. So input has this type, and we expect this type to be password. So let's save this one. So this is failing because by default, if we don't specify any type for input, it is text, and this is the failing reason right here. We expect it to be password, but it received text as the input type. So we can fix it like this. We can set the type, and we can set like this. So the test is passing, and if we type anything right here we can see it is masked. Now, since we are masking the password, to make sure user enters the password they want, let's add another input for confirming the password. So let's add a test. Let's copy last two tests, one for the password input existence, and the other one is for the password type to be set for the password input. So just pasting here, and let's rename this one. It has password repeat input, and we are going to get that element by password repeat query. And the other one is it has password type for password repeat input. Again, we are going to query the element based on password repeat label text, and we expect it to have the type as password. Saving this one. We know that both of these tests are going to fail. Normally it's not a good practice to add multiple failing tests at the same time, but since this is a straightforward implementation, it is easy to fix both of them at the same time. So just copying this password label and input, and this is going to be password repeat. And for this one, we are going to use different ID. So let's say this is password repeat, and this label is associated with password repeat input, and that's it. Let's save this one. So we have this password repeat right here, and the tests are passing. And here, if I click the password repeat, it is associated with this one, and if I type anything, it is masked. Now let's add our final form element. We will have a button to submit this request. So for this one, again, we are going to use the role query. So just copying the first test here and pasting right here. It has sign up button. Now we are going to query an element having button role, and the text of that button will be sign up, and let's change this one to button. So saving this one, it is going to fail because we don't have button. Here it is saying there is no button. Now we will add button right here, and it will have the text of sign up. Now we have this sign up button test is also passing. All tests are passing. Let's add one final test for this part. Let's make sure the button is initially disabled. Later we will activate the button when we enter values for these inputs. So let's add the next test, just copying the previous one. In this one, let's say it disables the button initially. So we are querying the button, and we expect this button to be disabled. So let's save this. So this one is failing because the button is not disabled. And we can also see that one right here. We can click the button. Now let's disable this one. All we need to do is just set the disabled attribute right here. That's all. Now the button is grayed out, so it is disabled. I cannot click it, and here in the test console we can see tests are passing. Now we have all the elements we need for the sign up request. Currently don't pay attention to the style part. We are going to update them too.